Welcome to another edition of the Roar of the Lions UK podcast. My name's Matthew Turner alongside my co-host Ryan McCluskey. How was your Christmas, man?
It was good, yeah. It was just quiet, relaxed, cozy. Couldn't ask for much more. How was yours? How was things?
Yeah, not too bad with my family, my parents, for the actual day. Now with my girlfriend's family, so podcast on the move. I hope that everyone can hear me okay and that everything's coming through on the stream fine. I leave it to you guys watching live, and thank you if you are to let me know if there's anything amiss there, because with only one screen, it's a bit of a difficulty. But did you get treated? Did you get any nice gifts or anything like that?
Getting older now, so don't really get gifts. Like say, the time I've given up, got a bit of money, got a bit of clothes, but when you're nearly 30, Christmas isn't really a thing, is it? Took some days off work to eat and get pissed.
Yeah, that's ideal, and I'm off until I think next Tuesday, which I haven't had for so long. I mean, especially with the pandemic, it's come at a really good time. And of course, there was some Lions football in the middle of that, which I guess had its ups and downs. I mean, towards the end of the game, I was off my seat screaming at the TV, and my girlfriend's parents were watching me going, wow, okay, so this is a thing. They'd never seen me watch a game before with it on the line, with that 30 seconds to go. So, you know, the Lions flattered to deceive in the end, but it was a fun game all in all, don't you think?
No, I didn't enjoy it. Two not great teams playing not great football. We had the lion's share, literally, of the ball and possession, but didn't make it count for the best part of it. And in the end, well, let's put it this way: Tim Boyle will no longer be on my Christmas card list. I do not wish him a happy new year, and if he never plays for Lions again, I wouldn't be that bothered.
Got a few guys in the chat saying you're muted, but hopefully I've adjusted that, so now it's not too bad. Dan's live on Twitch. He says he thinks it's a win-win on Sunday. I tend to agree. I think that the Lions kind of looked good in a loss, and, you know, at the end of the day, it'd be nice to get a win. It'd be nice for the confidence, but actually I think that there'll be a lot of confidence taken from quite a few of the guys that they had good games. I don't think that many people will come out of that thinking, well, we've been destroyed by a bad team there. Atlanta are not a good team. I mean, let's not beat around the bush, but you could say that there's some individual performances, and we'll get into these later, that, you know, really stood out. Jalen Reeves-Maybin especially had a really good game. Charles Harris looked good too. Amon-Ra continues to, in my mind, solidify his status as, at least in terms of from where he was picked, the sort of value-added offensive rookie of the year. I don't know if you're on the same wavelength as me there. I think you put out a tweet to that effect, actually.
Yeah, he won't even be in the conversation for the actual award, but he deserves some recollection for where he was picked in the draft, and his production has been somewhat of a surprise to some people. He's certainly been a bigger cog than you'd have expected him to, especially from weeks like 1 to 6 where he was kind of non-existent. He was just overlooked, didn't really have much trust. But since the bye, I suppose, he's kind of worked his way now into that leading, starring role. So he deserves an Oscar nomination for at least being the best supporting actor, I suppose, even if he's not going to win the whole thing.
Absolutely. I'm just going to break for like 2 or 3 seconds because it wasn't recording, and when we go out onto the audio pod, I'm going to edit it from here. The guys live will have had a few extra minutes, but I'm just going to wait for a few seconds and then intro again, if that's cool.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. Welcome to another edition of the Roar of the Lions UK podcast, episode 103. Oh boy. My name's Matthew Turner alongside Ryan McCluskey, my co-host. How you doing, man?
I'm good, yeah, thanks. Season's winding down, so it kind of feels like everyone's kind of just preparing for next year already.
It really does. Right, we will crack straight on with this. I've got my girlfriend's family downstairs are waiting for me to finish so they can start some more louder drinking, and I definitely want to be a part of that. The England cricket is on, although that's probably not worth watching either, but, you know, never mind. Don't forget our Discord channel, active even through Christmas and Boxing Day. So you want to get in on that, hit us up on Twitter for a link to that. College Football Podcast, still going strong. I don't know if there's going to be an episode this Wednesday, but we are coming up very, very quickly to the championship playoffs on New Year's Eve, I think. So I know that there's a potential COVID scare, Ryan, there actually. But, they are in the next few days.
Yeah, George has already got a few players that have tested positive, including JT Daniels. And I think George Pickens, so they've been in protocol for a few days. It's just come out that they've cancelled the presser for fear of COVID. So I do not have a good feeling about these games. I think there's going to be some issues. I've already seen at least 4 bowl games cancelled in the last 2 days. They're not even finding new opponents. They're not even asking teams to travel up and step up. They're just cancelling them flat out. So I'm praying the playoffs aren't affected, but it's not looking. Keep them in a bubble. I would literally keep them away from anyone whatsoever until the games. Don't take any risks.
I mean, I've seen loads of Michigan fans on my Twitter having, being a Lions fan, there's loads of them there saying, oh, I don't mind if the games are COVID affected and the games are called off as long as Michigan are named national champions. And it's like, I don't know what universe you're living in that Michigan don't play the games and as the number 2 seed will be national champions. Like, even if the number 1 seed is the team that has the most COVID cases and the reason things are called off, the number 1 seeded team will be named champions unless I'm going completely mad.
Yes, there'll be no champion, or the number 1 seed will be de facto champion with an asterisk. Michigan fans need to give their heads a wobble if they think they're going to get some sort of default thing because they stayed the healthiest. Come on, guys, it don't work like that, sorry.
No. Don't forget to like the video, the podcast on audio, what have you. Sub to it if you can. It'd be a big help to us. Lions Nation Unite as well. Please get on that, our project, along with Herman Moore and all the hobby podcasters that do this sort of thing. So it'll be a big help to us. But in terms of actually the content you get on there, it's going to be a massive thing going forward. So get involved. We're going to start out with the news now, and then we're going to talk a little bit about the Lions Falcons game yesterday on Boxing Day. The news starts off with the Detroit Lions now are guaranteed a top 5 overall pick after this weekend's results. So obviously the Lions loss combined with a Jets win against the Jags and a Texans win against the Chargers, I think it was. I mean, how the hell did that happen? But that has meant that even if the Lions now win out in their final 2 games, they are guaranteed a top 5 pick. And I don't know about you, but every mock I now see seems to start picking Hamilton outside that top 5. I mean, Ant could be on in Dreamland picking Hamilton at 5 or so if we can win out here, Ryan.
Yeah, once you broaden the horizons, look towards 4 or 5, the world becomes the Lions' oyster. They won't be forced to publicly feel like they have to take one of the 2 edge rushers. Like at 3, 4, and 5, there's at least 6, 7 guys that you could take, but 1 or 2, you feel like there's only 2 players that could be taken. So it won't be the worst thing in the world. People keep still banging on about draft position, like the first or the second player makes us any better. They don't work like that. One of the 2 will be a total miss. You can guarantee that pretty much. One of them will bust. So I'm happy picking anywhere in the top 5. I'm pretty sure it was pretty much always going to happen when picking in the top 5 anyway. It's just now mathematically correct. Like I say, I'd still like to win out. Who won't like to win out? Now we know where we're sitting.
Yeah. I mean, I think Seattle look like they are getting stronger as the weeks go on, even though, they lost to the Bears. There's something a bit more to them than there was a little bit earlier on when Russell Wilson came back off injury, where they looked pretty poor. So I wonder what's going to happen with that, especially if our injury problems continue. And on that point, Amani Oruwariye was placed on IR before the game, but after we last podcasted, that ends his season. Jason Kambinda and Shane Zylstra exited the game yesterday with knee injuries. Zylstra in particular apparently shattered his kneecap. I don't know how long the rehab is on that, if there is indeed a rehab estimate at all on that sort of injury, but potentially that could be a bit longer than just the off-season out, Ryan.
Oh yeah, a fractured kneecap, that's going to need surgery, probably some nuts and bolts, but just hoping it heals. If he's done any major damage, Don't know if we'll see him next season or where he'll be. If he'll be in Detroit, hopefully somewhere, but I don't expect to see him for many months to come now.
No, I mean, just a practice squad guy to start, kind of got promoted after our tight end 2 moved on because he was useless. And, he kind of came in and wasn't absolutely nothing. And given where he came from and the difficulty of the tight end position, that wasn't bad. So I feel really bad for him. I mean, just as a person, but also the fact that he actually did manage to contribute a little bit to our kind of positive run in the last few weeks. On other injury news, Jared Goff has cleared the COVID protocols, but wide receiver Josh Reynolds has gone into them because he's tested positive for COVID. I didn't actually see the press conference that just aired an hour ago or so, but I believe that Trinity Benson is still in the COVID protocols unless he came off as announced in that. So if that's true, then we've got 2 of our wide receivers in the protocol, which is not exactly ideal this time, Ryan.
It's just, we're literally down to bare bones, aren't we? Let's just protect Amon-Ra at all costs. Like, lock him in a broom cupboard. Keep him away from anyone that's possibly sick. He is our only hope in the last 2 games. Josh Reynolds, maybe this explains why yesterday he just looked totally off it. I don't know if he wasn't feeling well, but there's kind of a coincidence there. Test positive, even if it was asymptomatic, and had an absolute stinker. The connection just wasn't there. But Trinity Benson, like you say, we won't see him again this year. Well, it doesn't seem like if he's even active, or he wasn't listed as not active yesterday, but I'm guessing that's because he never cleared protocol. So I just got no idea what's going on anymore. I just can't wait for the season to be over. Sickness, injuries, just please end it now for everyone. Hopefully the league's in a much better position next year, but I don't know. I'm still not banking on it.
No, absolutely. Couple of more bits of news. The Lions have now locked into last place in the NFC North for the season. This means that they are definitely playing Seattle, Carolina, and the Jacksonville Jaguars in 2022. They have locked into their respective last place positions in their divisions, and the Lions are playing the NFC West and South and the AFC South for the Jags? Yes. So, because of the rotation, they're definitely playing those people. I think Seattle is at home. I can't remember on the other 2, but they are definitely playing those 3 teams. In what order is to be determined in May. And Dan Campbell did confirm in his presser that he will retain the play calling role for the remainder of the year. Although, interestingly, he described it as the offensive coordinator role, Ryan. And I don't know if that distinction is actually being talked about enough, because I think most people are going, oh, he's a play caller. But to call himself the offensive coordinator when we have one is telling to me. I know we've talked about the fact that Lynn is definitely gone, but that seemed to diminish his role even while he's still here.
Hopefully he's not here. Hopefully we'll find out next few days he's gone, because it's time to wash our hands of it. So maybe it's very notable. Maybe he's just not going to return to the building. It's a very telling statement that. I'm totally fine with it. I think the role has diminished pretty much since like the first few weeks of the year. He's just kind of dropped off the face of the earth. I'm fine with him calling himself the offensive coordinator for the rest of the year, as long as we find one for next year, because his play calling, even yesterday, was pretty good. Like, I'd say in the last few weeks, he's got marginally better every week, and he's got back to being super fun and aggressive down as well. So hell, let him do what he wants. He's got the keys, so let's just ride it out to the end of the year and see where we go.
Absolutely. That's the end of the news. There was a question from Dan a bit earlier that I just want to get to. I'm not 100% sure what he's asking, but I feel like there's an interesting question in there somewhere. So I'll do that before we go into the game. He says, what do you think the teams with more than one pick need next year the most? I have no idea what we do with the Rams first and our second round pick. And then he said Jets, Giants, and Eagles. I presume that was to do with the results, which locked us into top 5. So the teams with more than one first round pick. So that's the Jets, the Giants, and the Eagles. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, Jets, Giants, and Eagles with 2 first round picks. So what do they need the most in the draft? I mean, we know apparently that the Giants are returning Daniel Jones. So I would assume that quarterback is not high up on their list, or at least if there is a quarterback, it's someone that is not going to start straight away. The Jets don't need a quarterback unless they're already giving up on Zach Wilson. I think it's premature. Eagles may not need a quarterback either. Jalen Hurts has shown something more than nothing. I don't know what you think about what their priorities are in the draft coming up.
Giants need O-line. O-line's trash. No quarterback will ever succeed when that O-line is horrible. I would double dip because it's a good offensive line draft. If you're really going to commit to Daniel Jones, which is a terrible idea because he blows. He's on way too long. It's an awful decision to bring him back. He has proven time and time again that he is just a turnover machine and can't be trusted. So if you're really going to try it again, at least give him some offensive line, because who did they sign like this year? Like, was it Nate Solder? Did they pin him on it? Yeah, awful signing. He's washed up, overpaid him. So just double dip at the line. Do you know, Eagles aren't a bad team. The Eagles are hard. The wide receivers are still bad. Jalen Reagor is just garbage. What a total terrible pick. Arcega Whiteside, another disaster. They could still do another wide receiver. They need a tight end, but there's no one worth taking. I kind of agree that Jalen Hurts has been bad at times, but then times he's been good.
Maybe they've got Dallas Goedert at tight end. They might be okay there. Tight end 2, perhaps. But, so Devontae Smith is excellent. They need someone to then stretch the field to give him room underneath, right?
Yeah, they need someone else to take a bit of pressure off him because the supporting cast is terrible. I'd say they could do with a cornerback opposite Darius Slay, because Slay's been fantastic, but the other side, I don't know who it is. Is it Avonte Maddox? It's something like that. There's some good corners. Like they will take a first round cornerback, I think. Now, who was the other one? The
Jets.
See, the Jets are hard because Wilson has looked downright awful pretty much most of the time, but he's really not ready yet, let's be honest, is he? He's really shouldn't be playing right now. They're forced to play him. So you could agree, I'm pretty sure he's been sacked and hurt a lot of times. So that offensive line needs some serious work again. But they've got reasonable pieces, but Denzel Mims, he's another guy that's just not worked out. They could do with some help there. Pretty sure the Jets... Who's the running? Well, they're taking Michael Carter, aren't they? So they've got that. So I'd say heavily invest in the O-line and probably work on the secondary as well. Like, I think they could use some more secondary help.
But is the secondary help available at that point in the draft, I wonder? I guess it's a long draft. It's a long 3 days. So we'll see what happens with the rest of that. Right, let's crack on with the game review. So Lions at Falcons, inactives for the game: Jared Goff, DeAndre Swift, Julian Okwara. Trinity Benson was on the COVID list along with the tackle Matt Nelson. Josh Woods, the linebacker, was inactive. Jamar Jefferson was a surprise inactive, I think. And then Jalen Elliott, the safety. Did you hear anything about Jefferson? Is this a lingering effect of an injury, do you think? Or is it simply just that Craig Reynolds has beat him out at this point?
I think he was fine. I don't think he's injured. I didn't see him on any injury reports. I think he's just bottom of the pile, which probably should be Godwin, because last few weeks Godwin has not been very good. So I'm surprised it was Jamar Jefferson that was the one that was inactive.
I guess it's the same arithmetic as earlier in the year, but with Reynolds and Jefferson and who was running back 3 at the start? I can't recall, but effectively Godwin is the running back 4/5, provides the special teams upside, so he gets the tick, and it's just as simple as that, maybe.
I suppose, but lately his kick return and that, he's not done anything. The average isn't very good. I'd like to see at least try someone else, because I've really not been that impressed with him on special teams. Well, I'd like to see other people worked out. It's a position where you can literally try anyone that can catch a ball.
I mean, I don't really understand why Khalif Raymond is the punt returner but not the kick returner, because on punt returns, Khalif has looked more than capable. So why he can't do it on the kickoff return, I don't understand at all.
He should be the primary returner. He's smaller, he's lighter, and he's faster, which kind of the things you look for in a returner, not a big hulking guy like Godwin.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, at the end of the day, Khalif Raymond was kind of taken off the kickoff returns because he became a much bigger part of the offense. You know, back at the time when we were convinced at this point that he was our wide receiver one. Well, right now that's definitely not true, because for me, I don't know if you feel the same way on this, but he is behind Josh Reynolds and Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's WR3 for me at this point. So why not put him out there? I know that we don't exactly have depth behind him, but we can run without a third wide receiver out there for quite a lot of the time, I think.
It's not like the quarterback even gets to the third progression. We're pretty much looking for Reynolds or Amon-Ra, or you check down straight away. We're not even getting to the third guy, so you might as well put him on special teams.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, getting into the game, the Lions end up losing this one 16-20. Having a look at the box score, Boyle, fairly good actually in terms of the completion percentage. 24 of 34, 187 yards, a touchdown and an interception. Quarterback a rating only of 29.6 though. Matt Ryan, 18 of 24, 215 and a touchdown and a quarterback rating of 54. Looking at the rushing stats, big disparity. The Lions 130 on 33 carries, split between mainly Williams and Reynolds. Atlanta, mind you, 47 yards on 18 carries. They did, however, have a touchdown in there, but that's 2.5 yards a carry versus the Lions' 4. I mean, that's a big having a look at the receiving yards, there's only 2 guys really at all on either side. Amon-Ra St. Brown for ours, 9 for 91 yards and a touchdown, and Kyle Pitts 6 for 102 yards. Otherwise, the other people that pop off the screen in terms of defenders, Jalen Reeves-Maybin with 8 tackles, and Olokun for the Falcons, 14 tackles, 8 solo, a tackle for loss, and of course the game-winning interception. Having a look into the PFF stats, best players for the Lions, Amon-Ra is the number 1. But the O-line had a really good game. Taylor Decker, number 2, Vaitai Sewell and Jackson will break the top 10. And on defense, a first appearance of the year in the green for Derek Barnes, the mid-linebacker, on 80.8 grade, only on limited snaps. He only had 14, but other guys actually really showed out according to those stats. Dean Marlowe came in second, Charles Harris in 4th. I thought Charles Harris again had a really, really good game, seemed to put Ryan under all sorts of pressure for the majority of the game. As we kind of have a look at the overview of the game, Ryan, what did you see in all that happened before we break it down more specifically?
Well, the O-line had a fantastic day. They only gave up 2 pressures on the entire day, so it was one of the cleanest pockets we might have seen all year, which in its own is very frustrating because, like I say, we had a lot of room to operate. The offensive line was good. 6, 7 all starts, I think it was, which surprisingly has not hurt their PFF grades too much because there were a hell of a lot of penalties. So I'd say PFF has been very kind to us there. Dean Marlowe he's been underwhelming all year, but probably had his best game. Played a part in the forced fumble. Like I say, hit the guy in the back too. So it was good, reasonably good tackling coming up in the box. So we shut down the run game, which was really nice to see. Even with someone as big as Cordaro Patterson, who's a bit of a jack of all trades, master and none, we managed to clamp him down in the run game, which was most important. And then we put all the onus on them. So as a defense, they did their job perfectly. They bent, they didn't break. Yeah, Melifonwu and Harris, they got took to the cleaners by Kyle Pitts, but he is just a bloody freak.
We had no answer for him. I was surprised, to be honest, that we did bottle up Cordarrelle Patterson for as long as we did, because I came into this thinking, well, our defense hasn't really gotten a lot of push in the interior for most of the year. Most of our pressure has come around the outside, and we haven't played Aleem McNeil enough. And the issue with Patterson is if you give him a few steps, his motor gets going and he burns you. Well, he didn't really have any room to manoeuvre whatsoever, apart from maybe one play in the entire game. And let's get into that now. So, having a look at the drive-by-drive key plays, the Lions come up big early with 3 sacks in the first drive. They then get the ball back themselves and have a long, slow drive for a field goal from the 8 on 4th and 5, decide not to go for it, when I thought that he might actually go for it at that point. Lions run defense comes up big again. 2 stops on Cordarrelle Patterson on first and second down, and they get the ball back after a punt. Kabinda then gets injured, so that's him out of the game. And then after that, Atlanta on their next drive progress down the field easily, and they convert a 4th and 1 at the 6-yard line for a touchdown. Patterson bounces it out to the left for a touchdown to make it 7-3 to Atlanta. And that play specifically, Ryan, it looked like that's what they were going to do. Ryan sold the fake very well, but especially Will Harris, the lack of recognition on the fact that a run play had actually happened. He kind of almost just walked in, and on 4th and 1, I mean, I don't know, maybe a pass is going to happen, but I would really be selling out on whatever Cordarrelle's going to do at that point.
Yeah, you kind of got to pick your poison there. You just go for one or the other. If they beat you with the one, if you've sold out, fair enough, but the Cams didn't do anything. How many times have we been beaten in a foot race to the pylon this year? So many times. Diagnosing plays that are stretching us one way or the other has been a real weakness. Laterally, like I say, when it comes down to red zone, we just don't diagnose it quick enough. They don't get outside quick enough and force them back in. We're just not great in foot races, which is what it ended up turning to be. 4th and 1, at very worst, to get a first down to continue the drive. So it was always going to be a run play for me, especially with Cordarrelle Patterson. I think the fake was always going to be like a sell in the pass. I didn't think it were really, because especially against us when we know that in the red zone, we're not always the best. We've only got a few stops all year. So 4th and 1, it was frustrating. Like, we got them down there to the money down where it was, and then we just lost that concentration. It was too slow to get out there, and in the end, as you say, it counted in like a pony.
Yeah, absolutely. The Lions then obviously get the ball back on the kickoff and respond straight away. The run works well before a 4th and 6 fake punt. Jack Fox, who is turning into a bit of a legend, not least because of Pat McAfee and his enthusiastic support for him. His pass, I mean, his fake of the punt is pretty nice too. He kind of holds it in his hand and, doesn't swing the leg or anything, but just gives a bit of enough. And then the spiral on the pass to Cordarrelle Hodge, who does a good job of, going hell for leather and then coming back on a comeback route, sells that, and it's just a lovely thrown pass. And actually, part of me thought that would go for a touchdown straight away, but he was hauled down. That was a 21-yard gain, and it was finished off by a really nice pass, actually, by Tim Boyle. Only short to Amon-Ra, but nicely in front of him. Caught it. Momentum takes him. He drives forward, just about breaks a plane with help from Khalif Raymond. And that took it to 10-7 Detroit. It was a reasonable drive up to the fake punt. We were 4th and 1 and then committed a false start. I think that one was Jonah Jackson. I've got to admit, I didn't see it coming. The execution of it was fantastic. Teams really have to be wise to the fact that we are going to do this, and if the Seahawks and if the Packers don't see it coming, they've only got themselves to blame at this point, right?
Yeah, especially after a false start. Like you say, you think you've lost the momentum. You think you've already won and you're getting the ball back. It's the perfect time to throw a fake, really, isn't it? Because they just thinking we've got off the field, so they let their concentration slip for a second. Jack Fox is now 2 for 2 and 38 yards. That's the most passing yards by. It really lifted us, because I thought, 3 and out, like you say, we'll just punt it. We'll rely on Jack's foot again, which we do very often to good success. But I think it was just another time where you see where Dan Campbell does understand analytics. He knows when to go for it. He knows we've got the capabilities of doing it. And people, time and time again, just don't respect that Jack Fox has got a good arm. Like, you should know by now that in a position where he can throw it, you have to be a bit tight to the receiver, because they gave him an awful lot of room.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's 10-7. And then the Falcons, with about 2.5 minutes to go in the first half, they drive down the field. They come up short, though, in about a minute and a half, and they drill Young-Ho Koo drills a 53-yard field goal to tie the game up, 10-10. Lions are then left with 104 in the first half, and I think they have a couple of timeouts as well, but fail to make that count, and kind of the drive fizzles out. They then take a timeout at about midfield on 4th down with 2 seconds to play and go for a Hail Mary, which I don't know, we just didn't protect him particularly well, and kind of gets hit as he throws, and that could have gone awfully. I wasn't a particular fan of that. Part of me thought that we perhaps should have had a bit more confidence, taken a time out early and said, let's get the first down here and get a few more yards and go for it. But maybe that was the loose, risky play in order to try and get some points. Ryan, I don't know what you thought about that in particular.
I didn't mind it. Knowing when you're going to get the ball back after the half, that kind of sometimes make your decisions for you. We call him the laser show, so Dan Campbell believe he's got the arm strength to get to the end zone. If it's picked, I also what, like you say, there's a very small chance he gets returned for a touchdown, so the risk is very low there. The one time that we needed better protection was probably on that play there, and he didn't get the cleanest pocket, where I feel like if he does, he's got a real chance at getting up the end zone, and we could have put the big boys on. We lined up in a package for a try and work that out, so I didn't mind that half. It was aggressive. It kind of continued the trend of the game that he wasn't afraid to take risks, and he was going to throw the book at it.
Yeah. So Lions Falcons go in 10-10 at the half, and I think actually I came out of that first half thinking that I was a bit aggrieved that we were behind. If I remember rightly, the time of possession after 30 minutes was 18-12 in favour of Detroit. It felt like they couldn't really stop us on offense, that we had 1-3 and out. But other than that, we looked like we were going to just methodically go down the field every time we had it, and yet early on we showed that that we could stop them, and so we just faltered on one drive and they got a touchdown. I don't know. I felt like at 10-all that Atlanta probably were going in kind of thinking they'd gotten away with it a little bit.
Yeah, we should have been in the lead. Now, I'm all for one for long drives, but that half there was just a lack of urgency. The drives for me were taking too long. It would come back to bite us in the end. Every drive seemed to take an age. Like, we dominated time of possession, but that's because we were stuttering. They weren't getting back to the line quick enough. There was chances, like I said, we could have had more time on that final drive to not be forced into a Hail Mary. So, but I did feel better than the Falcons because they were frustrated. Like, we'd exposed the poor O-line again. We were getting pressure. I felt like the game was really there for taking, and they knew their wild card spot depended on it. If they'd lost that game, I think they were done in the wild card race, basically. So there was all the pressure on them, absolutely no pressure on us. So I felt good, and also it's nice to see we're continuing a trend now where we're starting a lot faster. We're getting better in the first half of games, which was something we've been notoriously bad at. So knowing we're getting the ball in the second half first, I felt pretty good.
Yeah, it did feel good. Like we were going for 2 for 1, didn't quite convert at the end of the first half. But I don't know, there was nothing in the air for me which said that the game was going to turn in the second half. But turn a little bit it did. The Lions went 3 and out in the first possession of the second half, and then they end up behind. So the Falcons do go for a field goal to start the second half. Several really big passes to Kyle Pitts and a 48-yard field goal. In response, the Lions then drive down the field. Solid run game, a couple of nice conversions, but then 2 false starts from the Atlanta 13 in not back-to-back plays, but I think back-to-backs between Taylor Decker and Brock Wright ended up resulting in the 37-yard field goal, 13-13. It did feel like, you mentioned that the O-line had a few penalties. And actually, I think a few of them came from people like Brock Wright and wide receivers. And in fact, Tim Boyle himself was at fault for one of them, which was the most ludicrous false start I've ever seen. He kind of went back as if he had the ball in his hands and he just didn't anticipate the snap. It did feel like we were putting ourselves in bad spots. I think by the end we had 6 or 7 of them, Ryan?
Yeah, when you get to the 13-yard line, you shouldn't be settling for a field goal. Like, that is the prime where you need to, even though the field shortens, the playbook gets smaller, but still, you'd like to think in a matter of, that's 4 down territory. Like, you'd like to think that we can come away with 6-7 points there. But when you give away all that momentum with 2 false start penalties and you back yourself up, that gives their defense hella confidence. Like, they knew things weren't timed well, and the Tim Boyle false start are weird. Maybe the centre forgot to snap the ball because it looked like Tim thought the snap should have been there. He stumbles like he should have the ball in his hands. So maybe it was a timing issue.
Yeah.
Like, it looked weird because a quarterback should never false start. It's kind of unheard of. But the harmony of the line was just not there at all in the second half. Things they just weren't on the same page too many times. And it's the drive killer. It killed the drive.
Yeah, it really did. And we end up popping over the field goal. Riley Patterson remaining perfect as a line, which is really, really good to see. 13-13 at that point. But then Atlanta come in with a really nice drive. Consistent in both the run and pass game. So in the run, I think this was actually the point at which they got Mike Davis going. So he went for 28 yards on 7 carries at an average of 4 per carry. And I think that's where the majority of his yards actually came from in this drive. And it's finished off by a Hurst 12-yard touchdown caught over Charles Harris. You could see that the linebacker and the safety double Kyle Pitts and take him away. But that leaves Charles Harris on the end of the line having to take Hurst, who's in motion. And that's a horrible place to put one of your better defenders in. And as much as Charles Harris is athletic, and he does actually, contest the catch, he's almost got no chance against someone much taller than him. And with a start like that, with Hurst already running as the ball is snapped, he's got a speed advantage at that point. So you're really on a hiding to nothing at that point, and Atlanta go 20-13 up late.
Yeah, this is where the momentum really changed. That was a dreadful matchup. Someone, I can't remember well, I think Justin Rogers on Twitter, it was an edge chip, so there would have never been a linebacker on him. It was motioning out, so it was always the guy in the end of the line. And they read that perfectly. Charles Harris is never going to win that race. For as quick as he is, for as agile as he is, once you turn him and flip his hips, he is not going to win in a foot race. And they kind of just dinked it over him. Like, here's the Hayden Hurst is pretty good in the red zone as well. Brought it in, he knew he was close to the sideline, got the feet in bounds. And for me, that was the first nail in the coffin. That drive there, because that drive was the start of we didn't get pressure. Matt Ryan operating a clean pocket from then on. We were not getting to him. We weren't able to disrupt him. The O-line really stepped up in the late third, early fourth for Atlanta. They did definitely adjust, so I'll give them that. They definitely did a better job.
Yeah, they definitely did. So that leaves it with 13 minutes left in the game in the fourth quarter. The Lions then proceed on a 17-play, 10.5-minute, 66-yard drive, which sounds impossible. How do you have 17 plays in a drive that doesn't end in a touchdown? And 10 minutes, that's 2/3 of a quarter in one drive. And I mean, you were saying before about the lethargy of this team. Our drives were 13 plays, 54 yards in 7.5 minutes. 3 plays and 5 yards for a minute and a half. Like 3 and out took a minute and a half. A touchdown drive for 11 plays, 75 yards in 7 minutes. And then the turnover on downs on the Hail Mary in half. 3 plays for 7 yards. 12 plays, 56 yards in 7 minutes. And then this field goal drive for 10.5 minutes. Like you said, we really did chew up the clock. And this drive had it all. I mean, we converted twice on 4th and 1. And then we get down near the goal line, but decide on a 4th and 5, needing 7 to tie the game, that instead of going for it, that we're going to kick the field goal. There's only 2 minutes 38 left. We've got all 3 timeouts, so I can see what Dan's going to say or has said about he feels good about the defense and he knows, that in all likelihood we're going to get the ball back and we're going to get another chance to score, and this time it's going to be for the win. But at the end of the day, you know what the analytics are going to say. The analytics will say go for it, and okay, that's some value, but let's have a look at it in reality. For me, no matter what the analytics say, you still, if you kick that field goal, you still need a touchdown to be in the game. And if you turn the ball over there, well, they've got a really long field, and you can stop them there and then have a really good chance to actually get that touchdown again. You're giving yourself 2 chances to get that touchdown for me, whereas by kicking it, you've only got 1. And, for sure, kicking it means that you've now got a chance to win the game. But it's 4th and 5 from the 8. I mean, just at this point, say, you know what? the completion percentage for Boyle has been good in short yardage situations, so trust him. He can do it. And you know what? Some of those draw plays in this sort of situation actually got more yards than they should have done. I hate even suggesting that, but I prefer pretty much anything he did apart from what he did.
I didn't say at the time because I'm not questioning Campbell, but I hated it. We have not been able to move the ball with any urgency all day. And he somehow thinks, or he somehow presumes, with just over 2 minutes left, that we're going to get a chance to get the ball back and win the game. We have shown nothing all game. 10 minutes to move only 66 yards and turn out with a field goal. That's a dreadful drive. There was limit. We kept getting behind the chains. There was no urgency again getting back to that line of scrimmage. It was just a disaster. There was no rhythm. It was too stop-starter. Using timeouts, everything, it was just bad. I agree. I don't care if we go for it there and we don't get it and we lose there and then, even if we're getting the ball back. But I would rather have gone for it and lost the game there and then than take the chip shot field goal. Just try. I know you put it on your defense, but there's no guarantee you even get the ball back. We're very lucky that we get the ball back, which we'll talk about, but there's no guarantee that happens. Most teams can kill 2 minutes, even if you've got your timeouts and the 2 minute warning. That's 4 stops. But most efficient teams can run down that clock. You only need 1 or 2 first downs max. So he was putting an awful lot of faith in, obviously, what's going to happen, because it does. But that was where we should have been more aggressive. I agree that even a check down, a dump off, anything, just a short play, when you're at that yardage line, the books, the numbers, they'll say go for it. You play to win games, don't play to extend them and come back again later, leave shortchanged. Because I felt shortchanged after a field goal, which I did on a lot of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. I hate the call. I know that Ant loves his cowardly punt index, as do I, but having a look at the analytics, they said that going for it increases your win percentage by 2. I think it said it moves the needle from 15% if you go for the field goal to 70% if you go for the touchdown. It's not much, but at the end of the day, I think you just got to take what you can get in these sort of very specialised, not much time left on the clock situations. The individual choices do make a big difference, especially over the course of the season. If you can add 2% to your win percentage in a 17-game season every single game, that's 1/3 of a win right there. So it's not insignificant that you get this right every single time. And Dan Campbell, more often than not, does get this decision right, and did get this decision right earlier on in this drive, earlier on in this game otherwise. But when it really came to the really important moment, I think he bottled it a little bit. I think he kind of said, this team's only running 2.5 yards a carry. They're going to run the ball. They're not going to be able to do this. And I get it. I do get it. Their punters had a really good day. If they get a touchback, they're at the 25. They get 7 yards and have to go 3 and out and kick it from their 32. You're starting a drive inside your 10-yard line, needing a touchdown to win. Sorry, with Tim Boyle, that doesn't sound like a good idea. He's been okay. He has actually managed to move the ball down the field with little checkdowns here and there. But why not take the opportunity in the red zone to get those points on the board? I just don't get it. I don't get it. But let's move on. We do kick the field goal, and then we do force them into a 3rd down, and Jalen Reeves-Maybin forces Russell Gage to fumble at the Atlanta 32. It's recovered by the Lions at the Atlanta 37, and they've got a chance then to win the game with 2 minutes to go, 2.5 minutes to go, something like that. I think it's just under 2 minutes to go. So, well done. What a play by Jalen Reeves-Maybin. I mean, he's already getting the tackle short, so the Lions are getting the ball back, but he gets in there with the peanut punch and the ball's straight out, and it's recovered really, really well as well, because there were more Falcons around that ball as it comes out than there were Lions. I can't remember who recovered it, but terrific play to essentially save the game at this point for the Lions.
Yeah, it's just really annoying, because I never felt like even once it happened we were going to win. I didn't feel like we were, but it gave us that. It's the hope that kills you, because it's a who was it who did it? It was Oro Warrior, wasn't it? It was a few games ago. He makes that Matt Gilbert recovers, that game-sealing almost forced fumble, it felt like deja vu, like the Falcons were letting us off again. Like I felt like we were getting a massive reprieve, and Dan Campbell probably breathed a massive sigh of relief, thinking, well, maybe that field goal decision won't get questioned because we can win it here and now. So, and we had great field position. Like we were at the 32-yard line with just under 2 minutes. All our timeouts, like the world is your oyster. You can do so much there. Huh.
Yeah. So let's talk about the final drive. So the Lions forced that fumble, and then let's have a look at the play-by-play for this final drive for the Lions. So they start off at the Atlanta 37, so the ball moves 5 yards in Detroit's in the Detroit goal line direction as it's fumbled. Reynolds starts with a run 4 yards, tackled by Richie Grant, who had a fantastic day on Atlanta D. He was probably their best pass defender in coverage, but also a fantastic tackler, showing all that promise that Ant knew he had in the draft last year. If you haven't seen our draft streams, he was basically the guy that Ant was in love with for much of that time. Sorry to him for how well he did in this one. Reynolds then runs again for 4 yards, making it a 3rd and 2, so quite productive, and then a short pass to Brock Wright for 5 yards. At this point, 1 minute to go. Run down the clock, 30 seconds all the way to 41 seconds to go. Jamal Williams then runs the ball with 41 seconds to go. Interesting, but runs it for 7, so now taking it down to 2nd and 3. Timeout taken by Atlanta, because that's like, what the hell is going on? Okay, they're changing personnel. I don't really understand at what point you need to change personnel on this drive. The Lions from the 37, there's 2 minutes to go and they've got timeouts. Running the ball is on the table, and it's what we do well. But they should be in sub-package. I'm sorry, you should not want to concede the touchdown to lose the game. So don't worry about the run. Why they had to, I don't really understand. But they do take a timeout to get into their sub-package. 2nd and 3 from the 17 with 40 seconds to go. Lions have 1 timeout remaining. They pass short to Tom Kennedy for 8 yards to the Atlanta 9. That's a 1st down and goal from the 9. The Lions then take a timeout, which is again baffling. Like, you run down the clock, there's 40 seconds remaining. Okay, you're trying to make it so that they don't have any time, but also you've been keeping everything on the table for yourself. If you keep the timeout in your back pocket there, you can run the ball, which is kind of what you've been saying you want to keep on the table. Taking a timeout there made no sense to me whatsoever. And then out of the timeout, Tim Boyle has clearly just been told, you can only go for Khalif Raymond. Like, don't worry about anyone else. Khalif Raymond is the only guy you can pass to here. Tunnel vision into double coverage with a linebacker in between them. Like, it's one of those passes that we were lambasting Goff for all year. And Boyle, who, to his credit, did not make this mistake for the entire game, did not lock into his receivers, then did it here in the most important play of the game. I think he got nervous. I think he thought, I can lead a game-winning drive here in that moment. And just couldn't break out of that. Yeah, it was awful. And Olakun, makes a good play. I mean, it's not an easy interception. He just has to move a couple of steps to his left, but does and makes a good catch, slides down, and I bet it is almost thrown directly to him. But, there's some velocity on that pass. It's not a gimme. We've seen those drop time again by defensive backfielders. But he does make the catch and the game is over. And, there are other options at that point, Ryan. It was a bitterly disappointing way to finish a game that really I'm coming away thinking, well, when we dominate the time of possession like we did, and we had the ball for 38 minutes, how did we not win that game?
It's mortifying. As you mentioned, we had more yards, we had more 1st downs, we had better time of possession, pretty much everything offensively, pretty much everything. Even though it might have been dinks and dunks, everything went in our way for the entire game.
Even the turnover battle was 1-1.
Yeah. It was 1st down. Like, you don't even have to force that throw on a 1st down. You've got 3 whole 1st downs. If you don't like what you see, throw it away. You've got 3 more downs to play with. And for some reason, he throws to a guy who, the worst thing is, he was never open. even if he doesn't get there, the linebacker, the safety picks it off. The other safety probably picks it off. There was no one open. I do not even know what I was looking at. I'm pretty sure someone said it might have been Reynolds or someone. Someone on the other side of the field was wide open. They might not have walked in for a touchdown, but that there is just, it was killer. And I just felt like I knew it was coming. I didn't have any faith in him whatsoever.
No.
Once that turnover, like, this guy, with no disrespect to him, terrible college numbers. I don't know how he's pro. Like, I don't know why. Like, let's face it, Dan Campbell, if he doesn't like Blau or just doesn't trust him because we don't see him, he's clearly never going to be in the picture whatsoever.
No,
I've chosen him to be his backup. Like, he will die by Boyle.
But Boyle, I do think genuinely is better. I haven't seen. So if you take the game in its entire context, we wanted to be a low-risk team that managed the clock, restricted Ryan being on the field, and didn't really put the ball in harm's way, but managed to get yards enough so that you could get some points, hopefully some field goals, maybe a touchdown here and there. And it's what we did. He executed, I think, a good, not great game. And from a backup who isn't paid a lot of money and there isn't a lot of hope for him, really, I thought he did quite well. Just not well enough for me to say you're going to be any sort of long-term answer. But he did what I thought he would do pretty much for the whole game, including the interception, because that's a part of him. But I came away thinking, well, kind of, well done. I'm not re-signing you, but you put us in a position to potentially win the game against a team which isn't better than us, but is definitely luckier.
Yeah, but if a pilot takes off with the people, gets you to Seattle to Florida in 1 hour less, but then comes down to landing and crashes on the runway, you won't say he did a good job, would you? That's pretty much the same analogy. Like, when it came to delivering, he totally screwed it up. Like, he got a deer in the headlights. So I can't praise him because all he proved to me is, like, say that he's a clipboard guy. He should never be on the field. He should literally be injury cover. Like,
but that's what he was.
Injury cover. But I think Goff could have easily played that game well. Even he could have been spewing his guts up. Probably still gives a better chance to win.
Oh yeah.
For what you've just described to me is don't make any mistakes. From what I've seen from Blau in like the earlier days, there's no reason for me to believe that can't be him as well.
No, I guess.
Don't believe it's him. Like, this will go down as one of those games where I look at this year thinking, I can't believe we didn't win. But unfortunately, I can only blame one person. I don't want to blame him, but it's his fault.
Yeah.
Because he had all that time to work with. We had all them downs to work with. And his eyes lit up and he just couldn't not do it.
I just feel bad because, so when I went out for Thanksgiving, I met his parents at the tailgate. Just the nicest people. Like, you see Boyle in his interviews and he comes across as a really nice guy. And I've seen where that comes from and it's genuine. He has just had a good upbringing and, you know, his parents, they're just really rooting for him with absolutely everything that they have. I want him to do well. I really, really do. But he ain't it. But at the same time, so there was a discussion going on actually in our Discord channel earlier today about replacing him as a QB2 because I think it was Mike in the D wanted someone who could push Goff as our starter in there. And it's like, with us paying Goff as much as he's being paid, I don't see where the funds are to replace him with anyone better, such that it doesn't compromise the rest of the team. For me, Goff's the starter, and the quarterback 2 shouldn't be anything more than a 1 or 2 game stopgap. And if Goff goes down, that's our season done. And I just think that's the way it should be, because if you have in someone who can push him as a starter, well, you've invested too much money. Like, Boyle, I think, did enough for me to say I'm running back with him, not because I want him to be there, and not because I think he's a capable quarterback too, but because I think he provides value for money at a position that isn't valuable to me. I don't know what you reckon on that, because how much would you actually be willing to spend on a quarterback 2 who's somewhat capable, realistically, with the amount of cap that we're going to have and the amount of positions we need investing elsewhere?
Nothing. I'm drafting one. I'm getting rid of Boyle and Blau. If we can save money in either of them, I'm putting them both on the scrap heap. I will take a project because if Goff goes down at any point next season, then who cares? The season's probably right off anyway. The moment Goff goes down, the season's right off. But at least then we get to see maybe his heir apparent. So for me, I've seen enough from both these guys now to say, thanks, here's your P45. We're moving to look into the future. One of them might get a job somewhere else, but no, I'm not spending money. I know Mariota might be better than some of the starters in the league, but he's probably going to cost you like $6-7 million for the year. And he might never play.
Yeah.
Like, there's some Hoyer. Like, look at Chase Daniel. He just made a right bloody mug of us, didn't he? And we didn't even need the guy. Like,
no.
He can piss off, like say. So no, I'm not spending money on a backup. We've got Steven Montez, like, bloody hell, he got COVID today, but God, at least he's an inexpensive guy. I'd even give him as a backup game next year.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm right with you, and I'm sure there's probably... So, like, Tyler Huntley was someone who's been on the scrap heap for some time. There are players out there that are capable, that can run offences, that aren't going to be expensive. There's no way that Tyler Huntley is going to come in and compete for a starting job with Jared Goff, but I think maybe you can upgrade at the position on minimal cost, but you've got to be really selective, and Tyler Huntley is a person who operates in that Baltimore offense very, very well, so it's going to take some good pro scouting. I know that our scouting department is very, very good, so I have some faith that perhaps we can do something there, but maybe not in the way that people are hoping for. Let's have a look at the themes to take away from the game. So, Lions control the clock, as I said before, 38 minutes to 22. I don't think I've seen us with such a big disparity in time of possession in years, Ryan. I mean, when was the last time we had 38 minutes of possession in a game? I can't remember it. Ever.
Probably maybe that Jags game we went after the bye, where we totally dominated, but maybe we didn't run the ball enough then.
I don't think so. Yeah.
I couldn't tell you.
No, absolutely incredible. Another thing that we were really good was we were efficient on 3rd and 4th down. Obviously, we had to be to extend the drives that long, but we were 3 of 4 on 4th down, and we were 6 of 11, I think, by memory, on 3rd down. It was a really good performance in terms of coaching, in terms of the play calling. You know, I questioned earlier some of the decisions on 4th and 5 early to not go for it, on the late decision to go for the field goal, and also the first and goal situation at the end. But throughout the game, we had a number of situations that could have been called badly, and they weren't, and they were executed very, very well. So I think there needs to be some plaudits going in there. There's several decisions that they could have bottled in other situations and didn't.
I'm pretty sure I saw one of the graphics that said we've got the most 4th down goals for it in the league. I think we're at 40 now, and I think we're at 50%, which makes us one of the best in football. I think we might even be the best for converting 4th downs, which tells you how aggressive we are, but also tells you that we're getting better at it. We're becoming less predictable. We're getting better at converting. I'm pretty sure we're one of the best in the league on 4th down now, because we go for it so often, which tells its own tale, because we get behind the chains and we get to 4th down where some teams don't. But at least we're getting better at converting them and extending drives. So that's something to certainly take away.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just going to check that because I'm kind of interested to see. So Detroit Lions conversions on offense.
At some point, the graphic said I think it said we were 18 of 36 at one point. We're 50% on the year, but that was like a first, second quarter.
I think there must be some sort of qualifier in terms of how many times you go for it, because according to Pro Football Reference, we're 17th on offense on 4th down at 50%. But, you know, if you go for it 4 times in the year and get it 3, are you better than someone who's going 18 to 36? I think there's some sort of like qualifier in there. So I think you're right. What is interesting is that we're 32nd on red zone percentage, but we knew that anyway. Jamal ran the ball well, came out and, you know, ran really hard. So I think he was 4 yards per carry or just short of that, which, you know, isn't going to win any awards. But considering how he'd been bottled up since his COVID diagnosis, he came back and had probably his strongest showing since early on in the season. In stark contrast to Craig Reynolds, who, you know, only got down for 2.5 a carry after running so well in the last couple of weeks. And maybe he was due for a down game, but a nice welcome return to form for Jamal, who didn't really have any big plays, but just consistently churned out those situations to get us into 3rd and short.
He's now second in the league for rushes that result in a first down behind only Jonathan Taylor. They pretty much put that on the screen. That tells its own story. How efficient must that be? Craig Reynolds, unfortunately, he will never be a huge factor in the offense. Maybe. He's a part player. Like, he's a guy that steps up when the law. Like I say, it's great to see Jamal back because, God, we've missed him. We've missed Jamal really badly because since Swift's gone down, we've had to rely on all this rotation. But to get some stability, maybe Jamal and Craig. At this point right now, I know we're going to probably see him, but I don't want to see Swift again this year. There's no point. Like, we've proved that we don't need him to operate an efficient run game right now. We're still doing pretty well, so don't force him back. But he ain't going to sit down if he's healthy. But I agree, it's great to see him back. And I think Reynolds only got 11 touches. So, yeah, this will be his down week. Seattle are good against the run. It won't be his next week. They've got like Jordan Brooks, who's having a fantastic year. So it's not going to be easy to run next week.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a serious test because, like I said, they've got a stout defensive line as well. They are really going to make us work for those yards. So it's good to see Jamal hopefully now fighting fit.
Yeah, the other takeaways from the game, the Lions can't stop a unicorn. Kyle Pitts just came in there and completely destroyed us. No matter what we did, we couldn't cover him, whether it was linebacker or safety. And, I thought that we put Dean Marlowe over him, and Dean Marlowe had a good game by all the metrics, and I saw him pop up with tackles. He was the guy who recovered the fumble as well, apparently. But I don't know, so who the other safety would be? Tracy Walker. He didn't actually have a great game, I don't think, Tracy, unfortunately. But I don't know. It just seemed like that Aaron Glenn just kind of tried, but whatever he did came up short. I don't know whether that does come down to coaching or execution, or maybe just a lack of someone equally special. Melifonwu perhaps was probably the best matchup we had for him, and he looked all at sea, actually, in this game, if R2, unfortunately. But how much can you blame him when he's been out for the majority of the season with an injury? I'm giving him a full pass this year, so maybe just one of those things where you hold your hands up and say, if that's the way you're going to win, well, so be it.
No one was ready. There isn't a cornerback on the roster, I don't think, that'll stop Kyle because the way he plays, the guy's a wide receiver, and let's be honest, he's not a tight end. He's never going to be a tight end. He can't block very well. He's going to be a receiver next year. He's going to make the full-time transition because he's got speed, he's got hands, he's got strength. And even when someone got close to him, there was one play where Melifonwu pins into the sideline and Matt Ryan throws a beautiful throw. And he literally just reaches and stops it going out of bounds. Like, can't stop that because he's an athletic freak. He couldn't have covered it much better because the pass is 7 out of bounds and he manages to still somehow haul it in. Like, what could he have done?
Yeah, absolutely. Amon-Ra continues to rise. Is it his 4th or 5th straight game with 7 catches and 70 yards or something like that? I mean, we mentioned him at the top of the show, I think. I don't know whether that was our first or second run through, but he's been elite. I don't think it's a stretch to say that, at least in the rookies, he is the second best of them, the best of them. Him and Elijah Moore. They've been absolutely fantastic, and I don't think he's ever going to drop a pass. Whenever it's thrown his way, I just expect him to catch it. Even some of them are thrown behind him, maybe a slight juggle or something he shouldn't get, and he's just coming up with it. Low throws. There was a couple he took off his toenails, and they came up in his hands. Like, the guy's got fantastic hands. He's got great feet. He creates separation, and they don't go for massive yards, but he's going to be a monster in the red zone. He looks a spit of Golden Tate out there.
Yeah, who was it? Antoine Randall that said he looks like Hines Ward because he's built like him, he blocks like him, and made a good comparison there. Look at the numbers speak for themselves. He's joined Odell Beckham Jr. as the only rookie in NFL history to have 4 straight games with 8+ receptions. That is elite company. He has got sticky hands and he's catching everything. He has got to win. If he don't win Rookie of the Month, it's a fix, which means he probably won't win because the NFL don't like us. But he's got, 83, 80, 73, 91 in his last 4 games and 3 touchdowns. Like, those are fantastic numbers. And his catches, he's had 8+ catches in every game. So he's on a proper hot streak right now.
He really is. I mean, I know that Hawkinson's been out for a few games now, but he is 109 yards Phil Hopkinson a top the receiving charts for the Lions. He's got 30 more receptions than Khalif Raymond. He's got 74, Khalif's got 44. I actually wonder what the Lions' receiving record is in terms of catches, because with 2 games to go, he can't be far away. How many 100-yard reception receivers can you have had all time? I have no idea how I'm going to check that, so I'll think about that and come back to it. But what a season he's had. It's been great, and I hope it continues in for the last couple of games. We've talked about Boyle. Should we talk about that Fox throw again? I mean, it's one of those things where I can't believe he hasn't been elected to the Pro Bowl, because the guy got to the Pro Bowl last year. His stats, at least in terms of gross punting percentage, have increased. I don't think the fall in net punting is actually his fault. I think it's actually a slight...
good thing.
Yeah, well, I think that his reduction in net punting yards is because of worse coverage, to be quite honest. You know, some of our gunners have gone down who've got that elite speed. Bobby Price isn't out there. Who else was our starting gunner at the start of the year? Oh, it was so long ago, I can't even remember. But, you know, both of those guys have gone down, and, you know, that's going to hurt. But he goes out there, and he's already thrown the one pass on the fake punt successfully. And then now he comes out and throws another. It's really throwing it in the face of the professionals doing the voting in the Pro Bowl, as well as the public, that you've made a mistake here, and this guy deserves to be in that game.
It's a fix, isn't it? I've stopped getting upset about Pro Bowl because it's a lot of shit. Pardon my French. It's pointless. No one even likes the Pro Bowl anymore. It's awful watch. I'd rather players don't go to it because I don't want to see anyone else get hurt, to be honest. I see we've got some alternatives, but it's one of them things where you get an alternate. You don't, even if you get called up, some of them just say, no, you didn't want me, so I'm not coming to help you out. Go to someone else.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just one of them things. Can't we just get rid of it? I think people would actually vote to get rid of the Pro Bowl. It's pointless.
Steve-O just got in touch on the YouTube chat saying he thinks the record is Calvin with 122, and he thought that Herman Moore had a couple of big seasons with way more than 100 receptions. So, I mean, maybe my hope then is that he can try and push 100 receptions. There can't be many rookies in NFL history to get 100 receptions in a season. So, if he can get 13 a game in the next couple of games, he'll be on the money for it. And, I mean, he's going at 9 and 10 a click at the moment. That isn't much more than that. And with some of our better wide receivers going on the COVID list, maybe, I don't know, Reynolds actually maybe has helped him by stretching the field a little bit and giving him some room. But he should become the focus of attention for whoever's under center in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, we're going to need the passing game next week because running against Seattle is not easy. We might have to sling it a little bit. And then the Packers, I hope the Packers rest everybody. I would love to go to town on them and put up some serious numbers. So I'm praying. I know Rodgers will start, but with that toe that he said is really hurting, still hurting, he will not play along. So I would love to win out. And some people are higher on the Seahawks than others. I don't rate them. I think they're there to be had because Pete Carroll right now, he's in free fall anyway. They're not playing for him, I don't think. I think he's a goner. But yeah, we'll see. I think there's a sneaky suspicion of an upset next week.
Maybe. I don't think no matter what they're going to get rid of Carroll. I know that people are saying he's on the hot seat, but one of the more successful coaches in recent NFL history. He's had a down year and their recruitment has been questionable. Their route forward is also questionable, but it's a big call to get rid of a personality that big. To get rid of him is to tear down the entire organisation. If you get rid of Carroll, I think you've got to trade Wilson. And I just don't see them doing that. Unless Russ is on board saying that's the reason I'll stay. But I don't see that happening either. I think that Carroll is one of those guys who when it comes down to tactics in a one-off game, he's right up there with the best of them in terms of Super Bowls and what have you. He's one of the guys I'd want us to have in a kind of nitty-gritty situation where you've got to scheme up for things. I know maybe it's not even like he's getting old. That's not what it is. I think they've just had some questionable decisions down the stretch, and it's come to bite them in the arse. They've made some trades which were unwise, and then, perhaps some of their picks when they only had 3 in the last season last draft just gone, and they take a wide receiver who's not played. It's like, okay, maybe we need to give him some help doing this, and he won't like that because he's a power-hungry guy. He's a de facto GM as well as the head coach. We know that. But I think it's premature to say he's going to go. That's my own personal feeling on that anyway. But I follow you saying that it's an upset on the cards. It's a trap game for them for sure. And they're going to need it. Yeah.
Russell Wilson will be asking for a trade at 0-0-0 on the fourth quarter of the final game. The moment that clock kicks down, he's handing in a trade request. I think he's sick to death of that franchise. O-line's got no better. They didn't do anything to address it, even they said last year, you don't fix this O-line, I'm out of here. It's still not got much better. Still runs his life. They're wasting his best years, and we know a lot about wasting someone's best years. He won't put up with that. No, he won't put up with that, I don't think.
No, probably not. We've talked about the fourth down decision. That was my last takeaway. Anything else that occurred to you in this game you want to get off your chest?
It's just one of those where situational play, situational big calls, just let ourselves down again. Like, things could have been so different. Boyle could have been carried out like a champion on shoulders, but unfortunately he's probably hanging his head and needs an arm around him. But hopefully he's got thick skin because he'll might shake it off. So I suppose we'll see what next week brings if Buff can stay off the COVID protocol list, keep himself clean and healthy. Well, we might see a totally different game, who knows? But I think it's very much up for debate, the quarterback room next year. It's going to look very different. Even though we're tied to Goff's here, but the rest of it, total shake-up's coming.
It really could. This draft is getting more and more interesting as we go on, with some players stepping up this season, solidifying their spots, and then other positions of need come forward. The draft order and the prospects are all changing ranking as we go. And with that, you'll want to listen to our All the Lions College Football podcast. I don't know whether we're doing anything with it being the holidays this week, but there's certainly going to be one after the championship games coming up this weekend, Ryan. And who are you tipping? If all the games go ahead as planned, who are you tipping for the semi-finals?
Cincinnati will get absolutely destroyed. That's a given. They don't stand a single chance whatsoever. And they know it. They're just there to make up the numbers. And, hey, non-Power 5 team made it. Like, let's celebrate that. But, yeah, they're going to get slapped by 30, 40 points easily. Bama are going to win the whole thing without a shadow of a doubt. Georgia, Michigan, depending on who can play for Georgia, I don't know what's happening. Like, say, if George Pickens doesn't clear the game, I think Michigan have got a sneaky chance of an upset. The fans on Twitter will be absolutely insufferable, so I hope they don't win. No offense, Michigan fans, but you'll just do my head in, and I'll have to mute you. But no, I do feel like an upset. I'm gonna go on my gut. I'm gonna say an Alabama v Michigan final, which will be very interesting.
Yeah, be very interesting. I'm just trying to find my souvenir from my trip. Don't worry, guys. I'm not actually a fan. I just happened to go, but there it is. From the big house. It was a terrific game against Ohio State. I'll probably never forget that moment for the rest of my life. But I'm going to root for Michigan just because they're from the state of the NFL team I support, and it will make it interesting for the championship game. But let's hope it goes ahead unscathed no matter what. So we've talked about the Royal Lions College Football podcast, but our next episode on the main pod is going to be this Thursday. Assuming, because it's the holidays, that we'll have some guys to join me, but it's going to be the Lions at Seahawks preview. And otherwise, in the last couple of weeks, we've had interviews with Herman Moore of the Lions, of course, but of Lions Nation Unite too. And we also spoke to Glover Quinn last week, Ryan, which was, I know you set it up. How do you think it went? I mean, I was blown away by the guy, and it's something that you guys really need to go back and watch, because I've never really listened to him speak before. I saw him in interviews while he was here, and he always seemed measured. But to listen to him for an extended period of time, you can see what people mean when they say he's cerebral. He knows what he's about. He's certain about what he thinks. he says it methodically and in a way that is easy for everyone to understand. He's like a teacher, in a way.
He is. He's very reserved. Like, he's very calm. He's very collected. He also keeps his cards close to his chest. Like, he won't tell us anything about the locker room. So there's no point trying. He keeps things very dear to him. But it's easy to understand how he's made the progression from, like, you've got this JUCO, you've got this Division 2-3 kid that managed to somehow get the pinnacle, makes it to the league. He plays as long as he wants to play. Didn't play down more than he planned to. Then he's got the boys. He coaches them. You just know what type of coach he is. He said that he shows people not how to do things. He shows them why you do it, so you know when to do it and you know when not to do it. You don't just do it for the sake of it. That just sums up his whole play style. Like, he is such a nice guy. I couldn't believe we got him for so long. He never felt rushed. He was willing to give long, descriptive answers. He felt like he enjoyed talking to us. Like, he never felt like he was in a rush to go anywhere. And just, it's easy to see why he didn't spend a long time in Detroit. And he had that once very successful year, like, say, interception leader. But he left an imprint. A lot of people might put him in their top 10, 15 Lions when he wasn't here all that long. And he's quiet, but on the field, he was a leader. He's not the most, he isn't brashy. He isn't bold. He doesn't come out and say these things. He doesn't get in your face, like, say, but he's the quiet, silent, strong type, which I really like. I can imagine playing for him. Like, he said that I'd give singles, I'd give looks, hand movements. I'm not going to tell you what to do because you know what to do, but I'll tell you if you're doing something wrong. It'll just take a point or a number or anything like that. And that just sums him up, doesn't it? He's a man of few words, but when he chooses them with purpose and reason. And it's certainly worth going back to listen for, because he just tells you all about the position from transition, from playing safety at cornerback to safety, and how it's not as easy as people would assume it is. He said it's different worlds apart, and he really respects that he has put so much time and effort into the game. He got everything out of it that he could, and that not everything's watching hours of film. It's up here. You don't have to watch it. Just take it all in.
Yeah, understand what you're doing. And that was the meaning behind his YouTube channel, which hasn't had much content recently, but ran about a year ago for about 2-3 months. And some really good in-depth videos in there into what coverages mean, how they're played, the terminology used in coverages. It was interesting to me as someone who can watch a game and understand what's happening, but can't describe it well, quickly and simply, to go and see someone put it in terms that just made sense. It's something I'm going to go back and watch more of to understand the game in terms of study, because of where we've come from. It's something that I have neglected in my football education, so I'm definitely going to go and do that. That's the end of the pod. Don't forget our socials: Royal Alliance UK on YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Facebook group as well for worldwide fans is Detroit Lions Fans UK 15 Worldwide. Don't forget the pod. Subscribe, rate 5 stars. Website royalallianceuk.com. Articles, draft stuff coming up very, very soon. But just remains for me to thank my co-host Ryan McCluskey. Don't know if I'll see you on Thursday, man. If I don't, I hope you have a very happy new year, and hopefully a Lions win against Seattle, and then we can break that down this time next week.
Yeah, I think I should be on, but I'd like a little gift. Like, we didn't get a Christmas present, so let's start 2022 on a high. Like, that'd be nice, wouldn't it?
Start as we mean to go on. Thank you for joining me, man, on this one. My name's Matthew Turner. We'll see you guys for the next episode of the Royal Lions podcast on Thursday. But for now, let's go Lions, one pride.
One pride.